whether this is enforceable. Now, we don't really have telecommunications lawyers at my firm because we don't do that kind of regulatory law, but there may be
There's a lot of good
somebody
ones
in
in
my
this
DC
state.
office who knows somebody who would give me 15 minutes of time to talk about this.
Okay.
Because there are probably, I'm sure there are telecommunications lawyers in DC who know exactly what this is and know whether the federal law preempts state and local law. It's just finding that person. I could do a little poking around. I could call down, email my partners in DC and see if they could steer me to somebody.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is the fact that there's a shot clock means that they do acknowledge there's some local review. It's the extent of which is
That's what we need to
to
know.
be
Like
determined.
cable.
Yeah.
It's like the hell stop.
Mm.
Sorry, Tony, I'll just-
Yeah, don't get
him
don't
started.
get me going on that. You want, that's tomorrow night.
Can I bring up a different sore point?
Oh, boy. Okay.
Well,
All
Please,
right.
by all means.
for 25 years, every year, there's been a plan to go through the ordinance and to fix the things that are broke, that have been broke for 15, 20 years, and we never get to them
Sure.
because there's a master plan or there's something else. And when you look at the number of applications we've had this year about bulk variances and things like that, I think there is tweaking that needs to be considered and done on the ordinances because they're too restrictive. Like, what is impervious cover? You know, some places it's anything, some gravel counts, some gravel doesn't, or stone dust, or something like that. But when you go and you see all these little shed farms right on the property line and different things like that, it's people trying to skate under the bulk variances, but it also is an indicator that if you've got, sometimes there's been the protect the environment by reducing impervious coverage or blah blah, whatever, has taken precedence over people who have smaller lots wanting to use their property. And that might be something to take a look at or at least target. And I'm sure you've got 5 or 6 years of plans that were done up for us to do, the planning board to do in the next year that they didn't get to. Like those variances and then the money that was paid out to that property on Mountain Road because, you know, the height of something was so much, couple inches above, is it plus or minus 2 feet? And the neighbor didn't like it. Don't want to go into the details, but I do think it would be worthwhile reading through the E-code to identify areas that have been a source of problems for people and to address it.
Well, look, Krista has been doing some of that in her capacity as the zoning officer. As she sees things that she thinks are ambiguous or problematic, she's been putting together a list.
Oh, good.
Part of the problem, Francis, is, and you know, as you know, we have a limited amount of capacity in East Amwell. There's a relatively small number of people who are doing a relatively large volume of work.
I've noticed.
And so we have to take things sort of in order of importance. And there are some other matters coming down the pipeline in 2020 that are very important to East Amwell that have to be dealt with. So I don't disagree with you that we need to get to these ordinances, and we'll do that. It's just not going to happen tomorrow because there are things that are of greater importance that have to be dealt with over the next 6 months or so.
It'd be interesting to see what's on that list because there might be some things on that list that we could either add to or whatever. Some transparency on the things coming down the pike would be useful.
Well,
And
it's
then-
been very transparent because when Mark and I were campaigning, we included some of that in our letter, so everybody in the township who got the letter and read it can tell what's coming down the pipeline. I'm not sure how to make it more transparent than to give everybody a letter that says this is what we would like to do in 2020, okay? But, you know, if you want me to have a conversation with you offline to repeat what's in the letter that we sent, and we actually
I'll have
said
to
it
see
in
if I
2 letters,
got
I'm
it.
happy to do
Yeah.
it.
Whatever,
But-
I'll look for letters.
But we're all about transparency. We're not keeping secrets from you, Francis.
I'm not saying that.
All right.
And if you were, I'd hear about it anyway, because it's East Amwell.
Right. So, and I know you have my house bugged. I know you do everything I say. I understand that.
Oh, he's just busting on
So all
you.
the pet names I have for the Chihuahuas, I know you have a dossier, but,
Francis got a Pfizer warning.
all right, so, look, I'll see if I could get some input from somebody who really understands this about whether a local law has any bearing on a matter like this, or whether the federal law just preempts the entire field.
And then we're just stuck with whatever happens.
Just like with the Helistop, unless we get that changed, we're stuck with whatever happens. I'm out there trying to get that changed, but you know, it's sometimes I feel like the lone voice in the woods, but we're trying. All right, so anything else on that?
No, that's just, you know. Okay, moving on. Oral reports. Mayor, you have anything to say?
On farmland and open space?
Well, that's you.
I mean, other than we're moving forward with trying to close on Wartsville Industries.
Right.
And we're also working on another parcel to put in preservation, about 36 acres, but that's in the relatively early stages.
Yeah,
That's really it.
okay. Well, you got anything to say about environmental?
Just.
Or is it the same as last
No,
month?
Same, yeah, there wasn't a meeting. I was gonna be out of town, and then something came up, and I wasn't out of town, but I wasn't up to going to the meeting. I may be in town for December, and we're so low on members that it's hard to get a quorum. If one person's out, then that doesn't, so that causes cancellation.
Well, how many people are supposed to, I mean, that you can, I should say, how many people can you have on the environmental commission?
I don't know off
What's
the
the-
top of my head, but a high priority between now and the reorganization meeting in January is to get the environmental
Environmental.
commission staffed.
Okay.
And I mean fully or largely fully staffed. So
So at least they can
Mark-
hold a meeting, even if they're down a couple of people.
Mark and I and Chris actually have been knocking on doors, making phone calls, trying to get volunteers to join the environmental commission. We have somebody coming in tomorrow night to interview.
Oh, good.
So, we have somebody else who is thinking about it, so, we are trying to get our committee staffed. We are encountering the same problems that all the municipalities around us are encountering, which is as time goes on, it's harder and harder to get volunteers.
Cheers.
Delaware Township put out their newsletter. I'm still on the distribution list for that. And they had an article in their quarterly newsletter, "Help, we need volunteers." I was talking to somebody from Raritan Township last Friday, same thing, "Help, we need volunteers, we can't get volunteers." And everybody in these other municipalities is saying the same
Same
thing that
thing.
I just said, which is you have a small group of people in each of these municipalities basically doing 90% of the work. And that's just the nature of the beast. So getting the committees staffed is a high priority, but finding people who want to serve is very difficult.
With 20-something, they got, what, about 22,000 residents in Raritan Township, and they can't find, that's sad, when you've got that many people living in a municipality and you can't get volunteers.
Or you get volunteers, but they don't really do anything, and they're hit and miss on attending the meetings. And so, yes, you have a number of bodies, but again, you'll have one or two people who are actually doing the work. I mean, I commend Chris. He spent the last year trying to get our Ringo's Village Advisory Committee up and running. He spent a lot of time doing that. Now, finally, we're at the point where that committee is going to start meeting.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, we're,
All Ringo's residents?
no, we
So
had
they
to,
want
we're
to-
amending the ordinance. We couldn't get enough people in the village, so
We got-
tomorrow night, we're
we got 4
introducing an
though.
amendment.
4 out of 5.
Well, when it
Pretty
comes
good.
to the village, where do you consider it starts and ends?
So,
On the map.
yeah, on the map.
It,
So-
it is, it's what's designated as the village on the zoning map, plus a little bit beyond that, but we couldn't get volunteers enough from that area, so now we're opening it up to the entirety of the township.
Basically, I think it's, what, Toad Lane down to the end of
Oh.
John Ringo over by the post office, pretty much.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all
that's- I
right.
think that's, if I'm,
It goes all the way down to Toad Lane, then down on the road towards Surgeonsville, about 3 or 4 houses.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
you're
how
in the
about up
village.
Toad Lane on our side of the road? Do you
No, I
consider?
don't
That's
think it's,
not,
that's
apparently.
not.
Oh, no, okay,
Yeah.
all
Well,
right.
I think
I've got
one
the
or
map,
two
I mean,
lots-
that lists it, but I just,
But remember,
Yeah.
the focus here is on what you think of as the village.
Yeah.
right,
It's not Toad Lane, it's not 604. The real focus is what people think of as that downtown area. That's the focus. We're not having issues on Toad Lane, we're not having issues on 604, we're having
when you
issues
say
in the
no
village.
issues on 604, what are you talking about? What
We're
kind of
not
issues?
talking about dilapidated structures.
Right, okay.
We're not talking about people who've been there 30, 40 years threatening to leave because of a whole host of issues.
No, you're
We're-
right, it's,
You know, we're not talking about not having sufficient land to put a new septic field. All of that is the core part of the village.
Village.
So that's what the main focus is. That's what the Ringo's Village Advisory Committee is supposed to be focusing on. The original ordinance limited the membership to people living in that area or very close to that area. We could not get enough volunteers
okay.
from that limited area, so we're now opening it up to anyone in East Amwell who wants to be on the committee. And we're introducing an amendment to the ordinance tomorrow night. Hopefully, we will pass that on our meeting at the 26th, and then the advisory committee can have its first official meeting some point thereafter.
Okay, good. All right, Ms. Secretary, you got anything to say?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I don't either. So, the correspondence is the New Jersey planner for September and October. I really thought that the November, December one would have been out by now,
Yeah, that's,
but,
Yeah, but there's also correspondence about Dunker Church.
Right.
The bridge, is that
Wait a
the one on
minute.
579 by Everett?
yes.
No, the one
No.
they're talking about is actually on Dunker Church.
Okay.
It looks like it is near Haynes Road.
Haynes, okay.
Okay.
It's where the third Neshannock goes through. I was gonna reach out to Tom Matthews and get a little more information on that, to find out exactly how long it will be closed, because it will have a major disruption on my running patterns.
Oh, my God. The world's gonna come to an end. He won't be able to run.
No, I'll be able to run, it's just gonna disrupt my normal courses,
Oh, well,
routine
my
is going to be
routine,
disrupted.
and I'm a creature of habit.
Francis, did you get that through the environmental commission as well? Because I did forward
No.
it to Gail. Okay. I forwarded it to,
Well, that didn't mean Gail forwarded it.
but I'm
to me.
just saying I
Sorry
did
about
relay
that.
it.
Sorry,
No,
I
not
just
you,
saw it
Gail.
on this.
Huh?
Not you, Gail, a different Gail.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
relayed it to the environmental commission and to the board of
Oh,
health because I thought that was,
That's right, I forget Gale Brewery.
Right.
All right.
This New Jersey planner, I was actually looking at it when I came in. There's an article on the first page, The Incredible Shrinking Land Use Board.
Yeah.
I would highly, highly recommend that everybody here read that article.
Yeah.
I started to flip through it, and I
Yeah.
highly recommend everybody read it.
Yeah. Steve's a good guy.
And this is a very hot topic right now. I mean, I'll read it carefully. I've actually read, I think, all the cases that they're citing in here. So I'm very familiar with this issue. I'll read it more carefully, but on a quick glance, it looks like it would be a very useful article to read.
Well, I know up there in Warren, they make every effort to get good articles to put in here.
This is a good,
Yeah.
I actually went through I had a pile of 8 or 10 of these that I went through, I don't know, about a month ago. There were some very good articles. This is a
Yeah.
worthwhile publication. Usually every month, there's at least 1 or 2 worthwhile things in it, which is better than most publications where maybe once a year you get something good and the rest is all garbage.
No, I know with Jason, who's the
Yeah,
executive
that's even
director, I mean, he really, works at getting good articles for it
It's a
and
good,
stuff.
it's a good publication.
Yes. Okay, could I have a motion to open to the public?
I move we open to the non-existent public.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I move we close to the non-existent public.
I second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're getting to the vouchers. Has everybody had a chance to look over all the vouchers, and anybody have any questions on anything before we have a motion?
Seems pretty straightforward.
There is one added on the addendum.
Yes,
just
and
so
then
I
there-
could
that's
cover
the one
my-
for,
before I-
Mazer.
yeah.
Yeah,
Clean it out.
Clean it up before you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the only other one that's added, so. Anyway, do I have a
I
motion
move
to?
we adjourn.
No, we have to
No.
approve the voucher.
We have to approve the vouchers.
Hang on, hang on.
Okay,
vouchers?
do we
Freudian
have,
slip.
okay, who made the?
Yes,
who's
Charlie
making-
Van Horn, okay.
All right, are you making a motion to approve
You
the
remember Charlie?
vouchers?
He'd always want to adjourn. Like, from as soon as the meeting started, he'd want to adjourn.
Gee, do we need a roll call?
Anyway, could I have
Those
a
fight
motion
words.
to approve the vouchers?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good,
I'll move that we adjourn.
thank you. You gonna
I'll
second it?
sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good going.